One thing I would like to mention is, in the middle of the conversation, there are some things in which you said that, some things need to be corrected. One thing is that the government, I am yet to figure out the reasoning for this. And in fact, I mean, I also obviously make, videos about this stuff. I've not talked about it before. But I think that there is one thing which has been added, which is going to be of significant impact in criminal laws in this country, which is Section 69 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, which is sex on false promise to marry, right? Now, if we were to kind of talk about it for a minute.
Sure.
Earlier, the punishment used to be under Section 376 of the Indian Penal Code, punishment for rape. And the reason why any person used to, as a sideline, is it okay to go into this or?
Bilkul, 100%. I have so many questions around marital rape today. Anyway, I came stacked with this.
Cool. So, earlier, there was the definition of rape under Section 375. And what used to happen was that 375 says without the consent of a woman, if there is sexual intercourse, then that is rape. Punishment was under Section 376. What used to happen was that the judges and the lawyers and the police imported a definition saying that if there was a consent which was taken by making a false promise, which the person at the very time of making the inducement knew it to be false, then at that point of time, even if it is a false promise of, say, marriage or maybe something else, such as, say, maybe a job promotion or something else for that matter, if a false promise was made and on the basis of that consent to have sexual intercourse was obtained, then because of the operation of another section in the Indian Penal Code, that any consent which is obtained by fraud is no consent. So they imported these two things together and they said that this is the offense of rape, which is punishable under Section 376. Okay, for which there have been tens of thousands of false promise to marry, rape on the false pretext to marry cases which have been registered all over the country in the past.
Without actually inciting forceful penetration.
Correct. Without any physical force. It is only on the basis of, and see, I can understand the reasoning to that to a certain extent. For example, if consent was obtained, but after the person was intoxicated, right? That is again no consent.
Correct.
If consent was obtained, and there is a clause like that, if a consent is obtained that, say, I go up and pose to be Shah Rukh Khan to someone who is completely, who has no idea.
Right.
And I'm saying I am Shah Rukh Khan, and then sexual intercourse takes place.
Yeah.
Right. And the basis for that sexual intercourse was the fact that the lady believed me to be Shah Rukh Khan. So then again, that is fraud, right? So to a certain extent, you can say that consent, or maybe another thing, right?
And this is mostly men giving a fake promise to marry to women. It's not the other way around.
It is never the other way around. The offense of rape has always been something that a man can commit on a woman. It can never.
No, legally, या फिर मतलब आपने cases देखे हैं इतने सारे.
No. As per the definition of the law. No.
What are you saying? You're saying that rape in India,
yes,
in the constitution or in the laws,
not the constitution. Constitution is separate, and the Indian Penal Code exists under the aegis of the constitution, right? So constitution talks about laws which can be passed, who can pass, right?
So there's no female over male rape.
That is correct.
In the law.
Yes. That's always been the case. In the earlier IPC also, in the BNS also, a lot of people have advocated for the fact that that rape should be gender neutral. It can be committed, in fact, by a man upon a man, can be committed by a woman upon a woman.
That's not covered either?
That's not covered either. It has to be on a woman, that too committed by a man. So if a woman comes and says that I was raped by a woman, and of course it can be done, right? There is no remedy as such. If a man says I was raped by a man or raped by a woman, again, there is no remedy to that effect. Of course, there are other, offenses which can be, this thing, but nowhere in proximity to the level of seriousness that is, the offense of rape. So, for example, if a man comes and says that rape took place upon me, earlier that could be prosecuted under Section 377 IPC, unnatural intercourse, right, without the consent of the person. Because even though the Supreme Court said that homosexuality will not be an offense anymore, however, the court did clarify that this is consensual sexual intercourse. So if there is forcible sexual intercourse, then even then 377 was applicable. However, with the new BNS, they have completely done away with anything similar to Section 377 in the past. And now I wonder, if a man comes and says that I was sexually assaulted by another man or by a woman, perhaps at the most, grievous hurt could be attributed. Which
grievous hurt,
which is nowhere obviously if you think about it, it is nowhere close to the definition of rape. Or in fact, the seriousness is also not attached, because the prescribed punishment for grievous hurt is also far lower in comparison to rape.
What, like a fine or
no. Definitely imprisonment is there, but it is nowhere close to the seriousness with which this is done. I don't remember the specifics, because it's always ongoing.
So to clarify, if a man is beaten to almost a pulp without the attempt to murder necessarily, but बहुत harm पहुंचाया है,
that is correct.
उसकी punishment, and a man who gets sexually assaulted by another man and is raped, sodomized, उसकी punishment same है.
That is correct. Yes. So earlier it used to be Section 325 Indian Penal Code, grievous hurt. But so that's a very, it's a good point. If a person is almost beaten to death, then we would like to charge that person with earlier again now, this is the one problem that I face with BNSS. These, there were sections that I used to roll off the top of my tongue. Now it's I have to kind of. So earlier Section 307 Indian Penal Code, attempt to murder, is something that we would charge the person with. So this big this thing, right? Now, however, after all of this, this was the old laws. Section 69, right? Out of nowhere, I don't know how this came into picture, and we are still kind of trying to figure out what was the intention of the legislature, right? They have offenses of rape, which was already there, has been just neatly imported. Sections have been different. Section 69 is something completely different. They have created a new classification of offense for sexual intercourse in India. They say that Section 69 specifically says that if there was sexual intercourse on the promise of marriage, or perhaps, a job, there are a couple of things which are mentioned, which does not amount to rape. So rape, anyways, the definition is there, and it has a slightly more stringent, I believe, minimum 10 years, but up to life. And I think Section 69, it is up to 10 years. So there's a little bit of classification in terms of the level of seriousness. So they've attributed it, and they've said that one thing is rape where there was no consent, or maybe consent was obtained through fraud. However, they've created this new classification of offense where they say that if there was an inducement of some sort, right, or consent was obtained on some sort of inducement, then that's punished. And that was not rape, right, which they've mentioned. If it was not rape, then also the man can go to, again, man on woman, the man can go to jail under Section 69 of the BNS. Now, one small point that I wanted to make was, which is something that I've been kind of, and, because now this is Vinamra's podcast, so I thought this is the best place to kind of, talk about it in like an open thought. I personally think, because a lot of people on the internet, a lot of men's rights advocates have talked about it, and they've said that this is horrible, that any woman can file any case on any man saying that he promised to marry me, and that's why I had sex with him, which already was happening, by the way, right? But now they say that the scope has been enlarged a little better now. Earlier, they were kind of mixing in two ingredients, and then they were saying, okay, now we are going to charge you with rape. Now this is, purely he promised marriage, and then I had sex with him, and now he should go to jail. I honestly, personally, because I've thought about it a lot, I think that perhaps, I'm not sure, perhaps it is possible that we might be able to put an end to false promise to marry cases, because we have taken out from the ambit of rape this aspect of false promise to marry. So there has been a kind of separation which has been done. Earlier, the way I see it, earlier if a woman is in the middle of the night kidnapped by somebody, and someone forces themselves on the woman, that is as bad as a man and a woman entering into a hotel or a house together. The man says, we're going to get married, and then they have sex together. These are both classified as offenses of an equal nature, which I believe was always improper. Right?
And one is dishonesty, the other is almost bordering on bestiality. Force kar rahe ho apna.
Indeed. So I believe now, because there has been a separation, right? And obviously, we have to now see to what extent the judiciary, the judges, of the Sessions Court, the High Court, and the Supreme Court. What kind of a view they have on Section 69 BNS. My hope is that I'm sure after a few initial rampant arrests in Section 69 BNS for the next couple of months, after that, I believe this separation of these two offenses is going to be in the favor of men, in the sense that at least earlier there was no, these were the same things, right? Grabbing someone from the middle of the street and going consensually into a room together, certain dialogues were exchanged, and then this happened. So now I hope that there is going to be a little bit of a difference a couple of months down the line. I am really hopeful that the courts of law are going to be far more lenient in granting anticipatory bail to a person accused of Section 69 BNS. So those were my thoughts. I've never read them before in front of anybody. This is something that
Thank you.
exclusively for Vinamra's podcast.
Wow,
that I
what a scoop!
wanted to.
This is the story that'll break the internet. But nahin, a couple of things emerged from there that I was thinking while you were making this argument. One is that कि इसका एक implication ये भी हो सकता है कि इस चक्कर में जो लोग बोलते हैं कि मैं तेरे से शादी करूंगा, खासकर आदमी कनाडा ले जाऊंगा, वो नहीं बोलेंगे, डरेंगे अब क्योंकि उनको रेप लग जाएगा. So that you were saying, the whole false promise to marry section is going to go down. कोई करेगा ही नहीं इस डर में कि उसके अंदर रेप भी attached है.
So, it's a valid point, Vinamra. The only problem with that is that in this country, in criminal cases, you don't need proof to make allegations. So when you say that a man will be afraid of saying these things, it is most of the cases. I have represented hundreds of clients, right? And I've spoken with, I'd say 1,000+ men who've been accused of these offenses. They've shown me concrete proof in their own individual cases that nothing like this was said. In fact, the discussion was completely different. And yet, the girl just needs to go and say to the cops, write a complaint that a false promise to marry was made. She doesn't need to document anything. She doesn't need any sort of proof. She just goes and says this. So how difficult do you think it is for a woman to say that he promised me, and that too when these things have transpired behind four walls, that a woman goes and says that he made a false promise to marry and then the man...
दीवारों के वाकई में कान होते हैं.